Hi, I'm TieTuesday. Let's talk about Asuka R. He's got 4 spell slots at the bottom of the screen. You can see a red swirl, water cube, lightning cube, wind cube. Those are punch, kick, slash, and heavy slash. If you hit quarter circle forward in that button, you will cast that spell. If you hit quarter circle back in one of those buttons, you will draw a new card for that slot. You can also press it to get rid of a spell. Usually that is on accident, if we're being perfectly honest. Asuka, to get MP back, has to use down, down, and then either punch to get a green version that's slow but spends no resources, down, down, kick for a fairly quick version that spends tension, your normal meter and guilty gear, and down, down, S to spend health, but it is very, very fast in exchange. Cool. First spell, Fireball. Very quick, very good hitbox. You can do it in the air or on the ground. Not a ton of reward if you do it midstream, mostly just knocks away. In the corner, however, is a different story. You get a much better reward because it wall bounces, which is very, very strong. Love to see it. All right, the 3 cubes. We have the water cube, which is 1 hit. Pretty quick, goes across the screen, casts very fast. We have the wind cube, which is 3 projectiles, casts a little bit slower, easier to combo off of though. We have the lightning cube, which casts the slowest of the 3, is 3 hits, but is very easy to combo off of. Cubes are pretty common across all the decks. They're really strong. They're solid combo tools. They're all super plus on block. And if you use them correctly and adapt to what you draw, you get pretty big reward off all of them. All right, next up we have the low, which you have to block crouching, or else you get launched. And the overhead, which you have to block standing, or else you get launched. Both of these are advantageous for the wizard on block, so even if you block this, it is still Asuka's turn, unless you plan on using an invincible reversal or something along those lines. And both lead to fairly significant reward on hit. Next up are the Fireball cubes. These will either spawn in with the number 1 or the number 5. If it spawns in with 5, it'll slowly count down. If it starts at 1, it will slowly count up. The number is simply how many it shoots. So if it spawns in at 1, you're incentivized to hold on to it for as long as possible to try and get more value off of it. And if it starts at 5, you're incentivized to cast it very quickly so that you can get all of the value right away. Lightning Talisman starts off as a guard crush that comes out pretty quickly, but it doesn't do a ton of damage. The more spells you cast in the round, the higher the damage becomes until level 5, where it just does a whole grip of damage. Next up we have Arpeggio, which is slow to cast, but puts out 2 big old waves of cubes. It can be a little bit tricky to convert off of, but if you can manage it, usually pretty high reward. Then we have the big boy. This guy moves very slow, has 3 hits and leads to a juggle, so very rewarding on hit. Only downside is it has a hitbox you can poke before it gets to you, which is a little unfortunate. Final spell of our offensive suite is the DP. It is invincible. It sucks. This thing's terrible. It leads to nothing. You get 1 of them in deck 1, and honestly, it's usually upsetting when I draw it. Asuka has 3 MP support cards, 1 in each deck. The first one is MP cost reduction. It makes casting spells cheaper. The second one is instant MP regen. It spends the rest of the cards Asuka has to instantly reload his MP bar. Pretty good. And the third and strongest one is MP regen. This functionally turns Asuka into a boss character. He can just go wild with spells and will almost never run out of MP. Asuka players want this one real bad. Don't let him get it. Asuka has 3 draw support cards. They are full import, which reloads all of his current slots, including the slot that previously contained the card. It has random import, which simply shuffles all of his current cards into different cards of his currently equipped deck. And auto bookmark, which for a period of about 10 seconds, I want to say, gives Asuka a buff that simply reloads the spell slot as soon as he casts. This combined with MP regen is disgusting. Asuka has 6 different staves, all of which affect his cubes in unique ways. The first two are the speed up staff, which makes projectiles go very quickly. This is how fast this bad boy goes without it. There it is boosted. It also makes its projectiles do guard crush on block, which means they are much harder to interact with. Generally, this just makes Asuka's zoning very powerful. Slow staff does exactly what you'd think it would. It makes projectiles go slower. It does not apply guard crush, but it does make projectiles very easy to approach behind. This is generally pretty good for Asuka. The low gravity staff makes projectiles bounce pretty wildly, which can lead to some very interesting situations, such as this one. It also increases Asuka's jump height, which often lets him do things like this, where he can just kind of jump and be in the air casting spells, and he's just very, very hard to interact with. Asuka's high gravity staff makes his cubes bounce very aggressively along the ground. It also reduces his jump height, which can make this a real rising overhead, which is very, very strong. It also makes any instant air dash attacks very, very, very plus. So another pretty useful staff. Next, we have the gravity staff, which does simply pull projectiles towards it. This creates the Ferris wheel of doom situation I am sure you have seen Twitter clips of. It is pretty silly. After that, we have the repulsion staff, which again does exactly what you'd think. It pushes aggressively away all cubes. Interesting thing about these is you can control their placement. If you just cast it raw, it'll be smack in the middle of the screen, like that. If you hit, let's say, down right, it'll be placed right next to where Kai is. And if I hit up back after casting it, it'll be placed above Asuka up on the left side of the screen. This can lead to some really buck wild setups. I'll make sure to put a clip of at least a couple of them after the presentation. Asuka has two supers, the first one being his damage super, what he uses to break the wall. It's not a real reversal, it's not invincible, but it's 7-frame startup with a pretty buck wild hitbox, so don't be afraid to just throw it out. It's also massively plus on block. Now there are two versions. The first one, P, shoots out a cube. The second one, K, shoots out an orb. You might ask, what's the difference? Well, stabs do affect cubes. They do not affect orbs. So you have both options available to you. Asuka's last super is a tutor. It instantly reloads any empty slots, and then for a short time lets him dig through his deck for what he wants. That does cost a little bit of MP, so if for whatever reason you don't have the MP, or you just really need to conserve it, you can press Dust, which will instantly close the book. And that's it for Asuka's spells, specials, and supers. He's a really cool character, and I think he has a ton of expression and a high skill ceiling. Might not be the strongest character in the game, but gosh darn it, he's a good time. I hope you try playing him, and I hope you have a great time. Take it easy, y'all.